Hey, I'm Fight the Flat Earth and welcome back to the channel that traps stupidity in a vacuum chamber and then turns on the vacuum pump. Today is episode 11 of Flerfs Are Idiots, and, well, with the help of the Creaky blinder, he said he was going to be making me a video. Oh, yeah, my phone's ringing. I use that for my teleprompter. Hold on. Hello?
Dude, it's me. Are you sure that I'm spelling it right? Yeah, I'm on YouTube now. I've typed staying alive in loads of times, and all I keep getting is ropey pictures of John Travolta. And he's not wearing a lot either. It's a bit, yeah. Thrive and survive. Right, I'll try that now. Sorry.
Alright, dude, cheers. Oh, bless him. He's going a bit deaf in his old age. Anyway, this is episode 11 of Flerfs Are Idiots, Mr. Thrive and Survive.
We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
So before we get started, I want to ask for some help from anyone that's able. On May 25th, I'll be part of a crowdsourced science project called Project Aristophanes. I'll be collaborating with a well-known scientific author to try and see what we can measure the Earth's circumference as. I want people in or around Montreal, New York City, California and Lima who will be able to repeat Aristophanes' experiment by measuring the angles of the sun at the same time and live broadcast it to my channel. If you are in or around these areas and want to get involved by either recording or taking part in the experiment, please email to fighttheflatearth@gmail.com with the header Project Aristophanes. We're also looking for one person who would drive between Montreal and New York City. But anyway, on with the stupid. Mr. Lion Connive seems to have an issue with how submarines work on a globe. I wonder who could answer these questions. I mean, anyone that's trained as a submariner in the Royal Navy and went to nuke school at HMS Sultan? Oh yeah, me! Let's see what the dumbass's issue is. I mean, apart from being a mentally deficient waste of oxygen.
Anyway, I want to show you a couple things that are very interesting. I may do a little series of these videos because the double-mindedness and the double-speak that would make Orwell just blush really comes out with globe Earth believers. Anything to justify their position.
Well, you see, Lion Connive, it's not that we would say anything. It's more that we have the actual explanations to your bullshit. But you just dismiss our explanations as excuses because you don't have the intellectual honesty to look outside of your little Flerf bubble.
What I did was, in this video, I showed a submarine, World War I, World War II, whatever. He's coming after a destroyer. And as I played this, what happened was, as he would go by, the submarine would necessarily, if it was a ball, Earth, it would start to surface, just like this one is starting to surface over time. And you will see here, I show all kind of different reasons. But, you know, if you have a ball and you keep the submarine flat, plumb, somebody left a comment, plumb. I love that term. That's perfect. Keeping the submarine plumb.
Right, this is the same stupid argument as planes flying off into space. Look at this masterful diagram that I created in Microsoft Paint. It shows an exaggerated version of our atmosphere with each layer representing a lower pressure the higher it is. As a plane maintains a certain amount of thrust, it will stay in a pressure band. The forces will equal out. This is why a plane wouldn't just fly off into space. The pilot would have to adjust for that to happen. You know, I mean, it wouldn't happen anyway because planes can't go to space, but it's the same with a submarine. The sub will maintain a certain amount of ballast and the buoyant forces will equal out and keep the sub at that pressure band. To change which band you are in, you actually have to make adjustments to force water out of the ballast tanks to make the sub become more buoyant and rise. Bring more water into the ballast tanks and the sub will dive. But it's not quite as simple as that because as the pressure on the hull increases, the hull compresses, and that increases the sub's density, meaning density increases as depth increases. This means a submerged submarine is in an unstable equilibrium, having a tendency to either sink or float to the surface. Keeping a constant depth requires continual operation of either depth control tanks or control surfaces. To conclude, Subs aren't easy to operate.
And you won't believe how many people. Now, let's ask the question first. Of all the English-speaking peoples in the world, what percentage of them do you think served on a submarine? 0.0001 of 1% maybe? I don't know. And then out of all of those, whatever small number that is, how many of those actually worked on keeping the submarine at a certain depth or knew how to keep it plumb? What percentage of those? Maybe 10% of the people in the sub? 50%? I don't know.
Well, I'm here, and I know at least 3 other submariners on YouTube alone that I've met in this community, and we will all tell you that yes, you have specialties, but every member of crew will have enough knowledge of every piece of equipment on board so that they can operate them in an emergency situation. Did you ever think of, I don't know, speaking to a submariner? What am I saying? Think. You guys don't do that, do you?
This video, let's see, I have to cheat a little bit here. It does have, I think, about, 250,000 views. All right, so it does have 250,000 views. But to have, I don't know, 5 to 10 people who claim to have worked on submarines, and this is what they did, and they understand how it's done, is ridiculous. It just simply is, in my opinion.
Well, guess I'm never asking your opinion on anything. I went through the comments on that video, and I found 4 people claiming to be submariners. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say that there was 7. That means that 0.0028% of comments are from people that possibly served on a submarine. And you think that's ridiculous? You're ridiculous.
Now I've got 2 pinned comments, and I just want to show this one right here. How did a World War I submarine stay level underwater without all the modern scientific stuff? I put these things at the top so people don't get ridiculous with modern day stuff because they throw it up as a straw man argument. But wait till you hear the straw man on this. All these people that just love gravity, just absolutely love it. All of a sudden they're into buoyancy. It's all about buoyancy. It has nothing to do with gravity.
Right, and there we have the centre of the problem. I think it's time to go to the remedial classroom for some excuses. Explanations, sorry. Okay, settle down, morons. Today we're going to... Yes, Mr. Riley? What do you mean you snapped your wand in two? To be honest, that sounds like a personal problem. Go and see the school nurse, Mr. Einstein. I'm sure he has a cure for you. Anyway, before I was rudely interrupted, today we're going to look at the formula for buoyancy. The formula to calculate buoyant force states that the upward force exerted on an immersed object is equal to the density of the fluid multiplied by both the fluid's displaced volume and the gravitational acceleration, or FB equals PVG. Buoyant forces are the reason why objects either sink or float in a fluid. However, to derive this formula, it's necessary to know Archimedes' law of buoyancy, which states that the buoyant force, FB, is equal to the weight, W, of the displaced fluid, or FB equals W. To find the formula given above, one also must know 2 other physics formulas. The first formula is that the weight of the fluid, W, equals mg, where m represents the mass of the fluid and g is already given above, so that FB equals W equals mg. The second formula is that density P multiplied by the volume phi is equal to the mass m, or PV equals m. If one substitutes this for the mass m in FB equals W equals mg, then one finds that FB equals W equals PVG. Okay, did anyone understand that? Oh, why do I fucking bother? Get out, you muppets.
Now, how do you maintain neutral buoyancy? Because guys, unless you're changing depth or you're running into water that's suddenly changing in temperature by a lot, the density of the water is going to remain the same at your depth. So once you adjust once for it, you should have no other adjustment necessary. Maybe a little fine tuning, but
I've got to say, you actually just explained it pretty well. So, what's your problem with this again?
Anyway, let's keep using that word plumb. So what he's saying is they constantly are working to keep it plumb, as someone else said, some other expert in Navy submarines. Okay. Anyway, he goes into how they trim the pumps and the diving officer and blah, 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 blah. You probably should have consulted with someone qualified in submarines before putting this video out.
See, I told you.
He verifies exactly what I said in the video. I don't care how they keep it plumb. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's a straw man.
Right, so explaining the operation of a submarine is a straw man.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
It's a straw man. The fact is, if they keep that submarine, okay, if they want to keep it at 100, let's say this is 30 feet depth right here. A depth of 30 feet. If you want to keep it there, you better keep nosing that front down to keep it there. Or you better keep increasing, well, it depends if they're going to say gravity or not. You better blow more water out or air out so you can sink a little bit more as time goes by.
No, you moron, for the same reason you don't keep pointing an airplane's nose down. You know what? I shouldn't have to be teaching you for free. You're getting an invoice.
The buoyancy, once you get the buoyancy right, there's no more adjustments for buoyancy needed unless you drastically change temperature in the water. I spent years studying oceanography. I know how it works.
You spent years studying oceanography, just like you were a weatherman. Even if it's true, how does studying oceanography qualify you to talk about the operation of a submarine?
And by the way, somebody left me a comment today. You always say that planes have to put their nose down so they follow the curvature of the earth. I have never said that. That's an ignorant statement. I don't know why flat earthers say it. It's a stupid statement.
Yes, it is a stupid statement. You're right. So why the fuck would a submarine have to do it if an airplane doesn't? Well, time to hand you over to old Creaky.
For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the Creaky Blinder. Thank you very much to Fight the Flat Earth for asking me to participate in this video again. Moobs. And today we're going to be talking about Mr. Thrive and Survive.
Absolute absurdity if anyone believing that SpaceX/NASA is true. Remember, SpaceX is merged with NASA. They're both the same.
Right, what do you mean SpaceX and NASA, are they true? What are you getting at? That they don't exist at all, or?
Anyway, here we have supposedly a car that is in space. Now, let me tell you about Arizona here. Arizona gets up to about 45 degrees.
Whoa, are you telling me about a car in space or the temperature in Arizona? Just get on with it.
In the summer, Celsius, 115, 120, 122 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, fair play. As we say in Wales, that's bloody cowing boiling.
And when it gets to those highest parts, we have problems in the streets with some people's tires starting to melt.
Ah, right, yeah, I think I see where you're going with this. So it's pretty lucky that there aren't any streets in space, isn't it?
And here we have a Tesla car, which conveniently was about to be released for sale in the next few weeks, right? In the next couple of weeks, it's coming out for sale. How convenient. What a better marketing ploy than to say, oh, I bought one of those cars that went into space.
Yeah, it was a genius marketing idea. And as far as I'm aware, Elon Musk hasn't tried to pretend that it was anything but. It kind of was, because to test the rocket, they needed an actual payload to make sure that it could carry a payload. He owns Tesla. He also owns SpaceX. That's a pretty good idea. Send one of your own cars into space, and you're right, people will want to buy that car that's floating around in space.
Well, you have this car up there in the thermosphere in hundreds of degrees Celsius, and the paint is nice and shiny, no problem with the paint. Yeah, the metal underneath the paint should be melting. Look and see what cars are made of. See what that car is made of, the metal. See what temperature it melts at.
You do realise that the car wasn't actually driven into space, don't you? You realise it was that it was a payload on the Falcon Heavy. I'm just checking.
Then look at the temperatures in the thermosphere and ask yourself, why isn't that car melting right in front of the camera? And again, the camera and the light bulb that's showing the car, how are they working?
Okay, Mr. Staying Alive. Sorry, Thrive and Survive. The car was... I can't believe I'm having to explain this. Space is incredibly cold. Somewhere around minus 270 degrees Celsius. And that's in direct sunlight. Anything absorbing the sun's rays will heat to about 150 degrees Celsius. But the heat quickly radiates away because there's no atmosphere to trap it. So as far as how the car's going to cope with the temperatures, it was never actually in the thermosphere by itself. It was carried through the thermosphere by Falcon Heavy and then released. So it didn't have to contend with that at all. And it's actually the exact opposite. It's a bit Georgian zippy in space, if you know what I'm saying.
And remember, Tesla himself said that car was not modified in the least.
No, and as I just said, actually I didn't just say it, did I? But I thought it, so now I will say it. The car didn't need to be modified because it was never subjected to those temperatures. It was carried through the thermosphere and then released. I tell you one thing though, minus 275, that's freezing. I definitely wouldn't have chosen to go up there with the roof down, or if I did, I would have at least worn my big coat.
So, you know, at some point it got to no atmosphere, and yet the tires didn't expand and explode as they tried to expand to compensate for the pressure difference. So you have, I want those tires for my car. They don't explode even in zero atmosphere.
Again, another stupid thing to say because this sort of stuff is really easy to find out. So when a tire's designed, it's designed to hold pressure internally, but it also takes into account atmospheric pressure, which on Earth we'll say is about 15 psi, with the average car tire holding 45 psi. And let's just say that in space, 0 psi. So if you take the Tesla's tire pressure of, like I said, 45 psi, add the atmospheric pressure on Earth of 15 psi, it gives you 60 psi. And then take away 0 psi because the car's in space, you've still got 60 psi, which gives you the pressure differential in space. And 60 psi is a long way short of the 200 psi that the average car tire is designed to withstand before it explodes. So that's why the tires haven't exploded in space.
And at 200, 300, 400 degrees, whatever it is Celsius, they're still just sitting there with the air still in the tires.
You're really not listening, are you, Mr. Christ on a bike? Staying alive, Thrive and Survive. How do you know the tires are still inflated? The car's been up there a long time, and nobody's claiming that the car's not going to deteriorate over time, because it is, because it's in space.
So anybody that still wants to believe that SpaceX, NASA has a car in space, there is absolutely no hope for you.
Well, Mr. Strive to Survive on a Christ on a whatever your name is, I've got lots of hope. And I actually hope that you get to see this video, because all the information I've given in this video was really easy to find. And if only you had done exactly the same as me before putting your video out, then you wouldn't have put this piece of drivel up for the whole world to see and to mock you. Because I just don't see what your problem with it is. Are you jealous because Elon Musk is such a wealthy guy, or because he's one of the greatest minds of our time and that he was able to come up with the technology to make this happen? Is that what your problem is, or is it something else?
And also, if you notice, if I got to go back and look to make sure, that it seems to me like I could still hear the sound of the engine roaring long after it was past the atmosphere.
Ha! Now I know you're lying. Teslas are electric.
See, they had a live feed that had the altitude the entire time it was going, and the rocket was still firing past when there was atmosphere. Like I said, I'll have back and verify to make sure, but it sounded to me like I could still hear it when I should not have been able to hear it at all because there was no atmosphere to transfer it.
Oops, my bad. I thought he was talking about the car. So there we have it. Now, as odd as this may sound, believe it or not, I've got a YouTube channel as well. Just go on there, type in the Creaky Blinder, and there I will be. I'd love to have you as a new subscriber. I make videos like this twice a week, and I go live every Sunday, and I'm sure that Fight the Flat Earth will be kind enough to drop a link to my channel in the video description below. So, Fight, back to you, sir.
Thanks for that, Creaky. Make sure you guys subscribe to the old guy. Next is a quick thank you to my patrons. I want to say a massive thank you to all my patrons. Your support allows me time to focus on my channel, and that's amazing, as my channel is just getting started. The support of Patreons helps me and my family, and I can never thank you enough. My Patreon is full of different tiers with different rewards, including having your name displayed here, access to monthly live streams, priority and after show streams, one-on-one time with me on Discord, money off of FTFE merch at my Teespring store, and for the $100 patrons, the offer of a free piece of merch of your choice. An extra massive thanks to my $100 patrons, Chris Kane and Jeffrey Sloan. To join and become part of the Fight the Flat Earth team, go to patreon.com/FTFE. And thank you. Okay, let's take a quick look at another gem from the Weatherman.
It happened once again, folks. Anthony Riley uploaded a video.
Oh god, not this dumb fuck. Sleeping Warrior is by far the frontrunner for Dumb Fuck of the Year 2019. And if you've been following my recent back and forth with him, you'll know that this particular quote is gonna annoy him.
No one must think that Newton's great creation can be overthrown in any sense by this or by any other theory. His clear and wide ideas will forever retain their significance as the foundation on which our modern conceptions of physics have been built.
So we start out by noticing there's 14 thumbs down and 28 thumbs up. Why so many thumbs down?
Because Sleeping Warrior is a fucking idiot.
Here an oldie but a goodie, Blargo, shows up. Congratulations, yet another scientific principle you don't understand. Say what? Coriolis is a force we do not understand?
Yes, I can guarantee you it is a force you don't understand. And I bet you're about to show something that you'll get completely wrong and think it backs you up.
How many times do we have to point out that the definition of a Coriolis force is a fictitious force used to explain the deflection of the path of a body moving in latitude relative to the Earth when observed from the Earth. Fictitious force.
And there we have it. He literally read the definition of what a fictitious force is and still thinks he is right because the word fictitious confused him, I guess. A fictitious force means it's an apparent force based on a reference frame. The Earth is spinning, and that creates the apparent force. If the Coriolis force isn't a real thing, then how come the US Army Marine Corps' artillery manuals have charts for correcting for the spin of the Earth? Specifically, Table H of Army Manual FM 640, Chapter 7. And that's all we have time for today. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe if you're not already, and get the notification bell on so you never miss anything from FTFE. Also, make sure you subscribe to the Creaky Blinder. He's on regularly. And thank you very much to all my patrons. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat Earth. Fight the flat. Fight the flat. Fight the flat. Fight the flat.